But first, new Maxar satellite images show the Russian convoy outside of Kyiv appears to have dispersed to surrounding areas. Maxar reports armored units were seen near an airport north of Ukraine's capital city. Some of those vehicles have also moved into forests. The convoy started massing outside Kyiv last week. Meanwhile, the White House is addressing reports Russia is considering seizing assets belonging to U.S. and international companies that have pulled out of the country. Press Secretary Jen Psaki said a decision like this would result in, quote, even more economic pain for Russia. CBS News foreign correspondent Ian Lee joins me now with more. Ian, it's great to see you. What more can you tell us about this possible financial threat from Russia and the White House's response?
Yeah, Meg, this is part of Russia's retaliation to the sanctions put on it by the West. And on top of that, the Western company's decision to halt operations in the country. The White House says that if Russia seizes the assets of those companies, essentially nationalizes them, that it'll result in economic pain for the country and also send a clear message that Russia is not a safe place to invest in or do business. And Moscow has also imposed an export ban on a string of products targeting what it calls unfriendly countries. This includes telecoms, medical, agriculture, and electrical equipment. In total, the ban includes about 200 products targeting 48 countries, but Putin's efforts are unlikely to have an effect as many countries only import Russian raw materials. Russia is facing a large-scale default on its debt, which would be the first time, get this, since the Communist Revolution in 1917.
Wow. Let's back up for a minute and go back to the breakup of that Russian convoy outside Kyiv. What might this indicate?
Yeah, military experts, Meg, say this is what Russia should have done in the first place. While they were in a column stretched out for 40 miles, they were essentially sitting ducks for attacks by Ukrainian forces. Now that they're dispersed and taking cover, it makes it harder to hit them. The Pentagon says that the column, though, is fighting its way closer to Kyiv, gaining about 3 miles since Wednesday, which puts Russian forces 9 miles from the city's center. Another advance is taking place from the northeast of the capital. That one is still further away, about 25 miles, but we've seen videos of that column facing stiff resistance. One in particular showed Russian tanks being battered by artillery. The ultimate goal, though, appears to be to surround Kyiv, which Western officials believe could happen within days. Military analysts predict once they do that, they'll try to bombard the capital into submission instead of trying to take it by force.
We know that Ukrainian President Zelensky has said that an attack on the country's largest port, Odessa, is, quote, imminent. Mariupol is also seeing heavy fire. How has Ukraine been able to defend its coastal cities, and has there been any fighting on the actual water?
Yeah, these Black Sea ports are crucial to controlling the country, but also for reinforcing Russian troops. Odessa is the third largest city in the country. For weeks, it's been digging in and preparing for a Russian assault, either by sea or by land. Russia clearly owns the waterways. Their navy is far larger and more capable than Ukraine's. Earlier today, there were reports of Russian warships, a Russian warship firing several shots off the coast of Odessa, although it isn't clear what they were targeting. But in the past week, Ukraine's navy has also claimed a bit of a victory, saying that they hit a Russian warship by rockets from the shore. As for the city's spirits, they seem high. Residents vow to put up a stiff resistance like we've seen elsewhere in the country. Mariupol, though, on the other hand, is in a desperate situation. It lacks food, medicine, and electricity, water. We saw Russia bomb that maternity hospital yesterday, which killed 3 people, including a child, which just shows the indiscriminate attacks by Russian forces. City officials say 1,300 civilians have been killed so far in the fighting. Moscow seems to be trying to pound the city into submission, but the fight goes on. Capturing it would be a strategic prize. If successful, Moscow would essentially have a land corridor between separatist-controlled Donbass region straight to the Crimea.
The numbers are staggering when we look at the casualty so far. And finally, Ian, Moscow announced something rather bizarre. It will open evacuation routes from Ukraine to Russia every day at 10 a.m. local time. Is there a sense people would actually want to flee to Russia?
No, not really, to put it frank, Meg. That's kind of been a non-starter for a lot of Ukrainians. And because, as we've seen, Russia's word isn't really worth much. Even before the war, Vladimir Putin said Russia wasn't going to invade Ukraine. And now its foreign minister is saying Russia isn't attacking Ukraine. So, as we've seen, clearly that isn't true. And on the ground, these humanitarian corridors have been constantly attacked despite Moscow's assurances. So, one could understand why civilians would be hesitant to venture out to Russia or really to anywhere and put their families at risk when so many innocent people have been killed. But really, many have little choice. They can either try to flee or stay under the constant Russian shelling. So, as we've seen, many have chosen to make the perilous journey. President Zelensky said just not too long ago that about 100,000 people have been evacuated in the past 2 days, but still, thousands more remain stuck, still hoping to flee this fighting.
Yeah, it's just heartbreaking to watch those images of so many people trying to make it to safety. Ian Lee, thank you so much for breaking it all down for us.